Hey everyone. So in this video we're going to talk about the Soundcaster. The Soundcaster is a special part of Wwise that allows us to simulate what's happening in the game before we actually hear it in the game. This is really useful for playing lots of objects at the same time. So I'm using the same project that we've been using for the branching project. So we have various playlists which go between, in my case, explore, combat, and chase with an intro and an end, and we have stingers. What if we want to hear these in real time? We want to hear those stingers. We want to hear it all play. We can use the Soundcaster to do that. So I'm going to go to the designer layout here. I'm going to select events. And so I have the events that I created in the last tutorial. And what I'm going to do is listen to these in a Soundcaster. To load up the Soundcaster, you can either hit Shift S or you can go into the Views menu. Sorry, not the Views. Yes, Views, and then Edit, Shift S here. So Shift S brings up the Soundcaster. You can have multiple Soundcasters. If you think about a really big game, you might only want to be able to test, the third level and the stingers that only happen there. So we can create different kinds of Soundcasters. So to create a new Soundcaster, to start to utilize it, we hit the double arrow here, New. And this will allow us to create a Soundcaster session. So it could be Soundcaster level 1 or Soundcaster level 30. I'm just going to call it New Soundcaster Session. And this is kind of a playground that allows us to check out how our events are going to work. So I can pull in my events into the Soundcaster, which I'm going to do now. I'm essentially going to put the start game, which starts our music switch, and then I'm going to put in all of our different states that we have. So chase, combat, explore, and I'm actually going to put none in here too. And then I'll put my stingers in here as well. So I'll put my stingers in, and you can stack these however you want. You can, put them horizontally or vertically, or you can move them around. And then I also have a stop game, so I'll put that maybe down here. All right, so let's check this out. I'm going to hit start game here, and it should play. If we remember what start game is, and I look at it here, so I'll go start game. It plays our first switch and then plays explore. So I should hear that. So I hear the intro, which is a transition that I set up already. And then I should hear my explore state, which I do. Now, at some point, I want to go into chase. So I'll hit chase right now. And then at the end of this phrase, it's going to play chase. And then at some point, I want the combat to start. So I can hit combat. It's going to flip to combat at the end of this phrase, which it did. And again, I'm going to click none almost right away. So here's the second phrase. I'll go ahead and hit done, and that should play my ending. Great, all that stuff is working. Now, when you play the stingers, they should play when you click them. That's kind of a new feature. In old versions of Wwise, you would have to sometimes you couldn't be playing a transition. And the reason it's actually playing is because I still have start game happening. So the start game is still playing behind the scenes. So let me go ahead and start this up again and set my state to explore. It's going to play the intro again. So it's still continuing. And somewhere in here I can, play the encounter to test how it might feel. So here we're still in that state. It plays the encounter. It plays, the open treasure. And then maybe I hit stop game. And what it's going to do is it's going to flip my state to none and then stop the game. So what's interesting is my timing was a little off on my stop game, which I set it up from before. So I might want to adjust that, because I have to wait not only for how long the ending is. Remember, when I set up the stop, I delayed it by 10 seconds, but I didn't take into account that would be finishing up the last phrase. So maybe it's longer than that, like 25 seconds or something like that. And then it would play correctly. So in any case, this Soundcaster really allows you to say, oh, wait a second, that stinger was too loud. Maybe I go back over to my audio tab, go to my encounter stinger, go to the general settings here and say, oh yeah, it's up 6 dB. Let's change it to minus 3 dB here. And then that would propagate into our Soundcaster. And you actually can do that in real time. If I was in the start game and then hearing all this stuff in real time, I could actually start mixing it, kind of using the Soundcaster. There is a separate window for a mixer, which we're going to review at a later tutorial. But this should set you up in terms of, I want to simulate what's happening in the game, and it allows you to kind of put your events inside this Soundcaster to preview what it's going to sound like in the actual game. In the next video, we're going to be talking about the sound banks. Essentially, we're going to put these different events into a sound bank, which the game can load and then play our sound within the game.